morning, everybody. Suntem în această conferință importantă organizată de către Comitetul Național Român al Consiliului Mondial al Energiei și firma parteneră cu noi, Siemens Energy, pentru a face câteva actualizări de informații și de proiecte pe un subiect deosebit de atractiv și foarte, foarte discutat în momentul de față în tehnologiile viitorului, în momentul de față în toată lumea. Câteva lucruri cu caracter de organizare, am prezentat regulile, rugăm pe toți participanții, cu excepția celor vorbitorilor care sunt aici de față, și rugăm pe toți să țină camerele închise și microfoanele închise până la momentul prezentării, cu excepția invitațiilor noștri pe care îi voi prezenta acum. În al doilea rând, aș vrea să cer scuze aici că această ședință nu este condusă de domnul președinte Iancu, președintele Comitetului Național Român al Consiliului Mondial al Energiei, din niște motive obiective, și transmit aici părerea de rău a dânsului că nu poate fi prezent la această întâlnire, la această conferință. Invitații noștri din această zi sunt următorii, distinsele persoane: domnul ministru Borberi Laszlo, în momentul de față secretar consilier la primul ministru la Departamentul de Dezvoltare Durabilă, domnul Nicolae Havrileț de la Ministerul Economiei, Energiei și Mediului de Afaceri, secretar de stat cu probleme de energie, și evident că aici, dintre parteneri și în același timp și persoană prezentă, ca moderator, domnul Petru Rușesc, director general la nou înființata de anul acesta companie Siemens Energy SRL. Trebuie să spun că această conferință este înregistrată, deci prin participare în continuare vă dați acceptul de a participa la acest eveniment înregistrat, iar în același timp cu prezentarea pe platforma aceasta de discuții, noi facem o transmitere a evenimentului live pe două alte platforme unde pot fi urmărite de alți invitați. Au fost invitați un număr de vreo 30 de persoane, experți în domeniul energiei din țară, din cadrul celor mai mari operatori din țară, și aceștia urmăresc conferința pe platforma YouTube live și pe Facebook, în același timp cu desfășurarea în timp real a acestei conferințe. Nu trebuie să prelungesc prea mult luarea mea de cuvânt, pentru că problema hidrogenului utilizat în industria energetică reprezintă o problemă deja cunoscută și foarte actuală în momentul de față. Aș dori numai să adaug că acest subiect, acest cuvânt cheie, hidrogen, în industria energetică, reprezintă o preocupare majoră și a studiilor Consiliului Mondial al Energiei, ca o problemă la nivel global pe care o urmărește și o realizează sub forma unor studii pe care le diseminează tuturor operatorilor și țărilor membre. Și reamintesc, Consiliul Mondial al Energiei are aproape 100 de țări membre, comitete, la nivelul întregii comunități energetice din lume. Deci o consideră una din primele 5 probleme de care se ocupă și cu care comunică cu țările membre. În acest sens, dați-mi voie să invit la început pe domnul ministru Laszlo Borbély să ne spună alocuțiunea dânsului de început în această conferință și felul cum această problemă a hidrogenului în România reprezintă o cercetare actuală și un subiect actual în comunitatea energetică din România. Domnule ministru, aveți cuvântul.
Thank you very much for inviting me to this very important meeting for the department, for Romania, I hope, because in this moment of this coronavirus pandemic crisis, all business sectors will be affected. And of course, on the level of European Union, on global level, we need to rethink our strategies. We need to use this pandemic period to reconstruction. And I am very happy that European Union, regarding the green recovery, it's on the track. We didn't stop because of the pandemic. We have on the level of European Union a Green Deal. We have a new strategy, industrial strategy of European Union, launched in March. And we have a new strategy for hydrogen, a new recovery plan for European Union. What is the role of hydrogen? And it's very important because, in my opinion, Romania is a very important regional hub regarding possibilities, regarding potential, how we will be able to put in place what we are thinking now on the level of strategies. And it's very important that big companies are interested, as I know, in investing in Romania in this sector. I am the leader of this Department of Sustainable Development. We have a new strategy in Romania. We are considered, I hope, a regional hub regarding the establishment and the implementation of Agenda 2030 in Romania, which means that from the next year will be the reports, the European semester based on the 17 goals, 17 SDGs, which are put in my backside on this background. So it will be very important to have strategy, to have the tools of implementation, and that's why our department is a catalyst on this. We organized an important meeting in June regarding possibilities, and all there were here in this webinar on hydrogen, companies from Romania, research. We established, and Mr. Varlan probably will give you more details regarding how we have a memorandum to establish a hub, a hydrogen hub regarding the research. But this is research, this is investments, and of course the support of European Union and the support of the states. We have ambition plans on the level of European Union. Between 2024 and 2030, we have the possibility, I hope, to install capacity of 40 bytes of electrolyzers. We will be in the period of 2030 and 2050. We will have 25% of electricity consumed for green hydrogen. we intend to have more about 2.6 million of cars by hydrogen until 2030. How we can do to put together, in my opinion, production, transport, and of course, how we use in different parts for cars, for steel industry, for to use this opportunity. It's about prices, it's about costs, it's about how we are thinking about our research, how we can move forward for this green energy, and which is the potential of Romania like early mover. We have to move fast. And that's why it's important for me to have, to put in place all the details. And that's why I will be very interested to hear from the companies, from the Ministry of, and I am very glad that my colleague, Mr. Secretary of State Nicolae Havrileț is here, because it's important to have the political willingness, and we have this political willingness. In July, we organized with the Ministry of Energy another online conference how we can put together these initiatives from different parts of companies from Europe. It's very good. It is very good that to have all partners on the board, all partners, because without a comprehensive strategy, also on the level of regional partners, on the level of different governments, because it's needed, in my opinion, also during the European Union recovery reconstruction project, green recovery project, to have a lot of money from European Union and probably from the national budgets, and of course from the companies, because we are in this place of how to put together different partnerships, different parts of this very technical issue, how we will be able to have a more green, green economy. I will be very interested to hear your position on the level of course, different possibilities from transport of personal cars for heavy transport, local public transport, maritime sector, hydrogen fuel cell technology. We are very interested. I am confident from my part, from the government part, from the part of Prime Minister's office, from the part of Department of Sustainable Development, that we'll be partners. We will be, as I told you, catalysts on this field, and we can put together all the capacities of Romania: research, industry, transport. We have the Danube for transport. Maritime transport will be very important to put together renewable energies and to clarify all the technical and legislative details on the level of European Union, on the level of regional partnerships, and on the level of national strategies. We can be part of this European movement if we have a strategy, if we have a vision, and we have political and economic tools in our hand to put them together for these important European projects, which will be supported by European Union. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Minister Borbeli, about your speech related to our conference, Romanian strategy, and next vision about this situation in Romania. Thank you again. Permiteți-mi acum să dau cuvântul domnului secretar de stat Nicolae Havrileț de la Ministerul Economiei, Energiei și Mediului de Afaceri cu atribuții speciale pentru sectorul energiei. Poftiți, domnule Havrileț. Please, Mr. Havrileț.
Bună ziua! Cum e mai bine să vorbesc românește sau în engleză?
Decideți dumneavoastră. Bun,
atunci am să transmit un mesaj pentru conferința dumneavoastră în limba română, pentru că termenii în care lucrăm ne sunt mai familiari, pentru că sunt termeni noi, complicați, dar împreună cu un instrument de sprijin tehnic oferit de Comisia Europeană, sper să obținem consultanță specializată pe problemele de reformă ale sistemului energetic. Reforma la care mă refer se adresează în special investițiilor de decarbonare a producției de energie electrică în primul rând. Știm foarte bine că recent au fost finalizate negocierile privind planul de relansare economică pentru exercițiul financiar 2021-2027 și în primul rând ne interesează stimularea investițiilor în domeniul energetic, care este activitatea de bază a ministerului nostru. Pentru că participăm la o conferință dedicată hidrogenului, vreau să discutăm despre faptul că în recent Uniunea Europeană a inițiat un dialog privind strategia integrării sistemelor energetice naționale și în special strategia hidrogenului. Pentru Ministerul Economiei și Energiei este foarte important ca să ne poziționăm față de toate aceste elemente de reformă economică în sectorul energetic și de a fructifica aceste oportunități pe care ne le oferă viitorul cadru strategic european, în principal în domeniul investițiilor în sectorul energetic. Nu în ultimul rând, aș dori să menționez un demers al Asociației Române pentru Energie Eoliană către guvern, care ne propune realizarea unor proiecte în sectorul offshore wind, dar integrat cu domeniul hidrogenului verde. Ca urmare, noi considerăm că este un proiect interesant și Ministerul Economiei și Energiei va solicita tot sprijinul ca prin intermediul instrumentelor de sprijin tehnic, care este pus la dispoziția țărilor componente ale Uniunii Europene, să obținem o consultanță specializată privind dezvoltarea acestei tehnologii. Dorim să finanțăm un proiect demonstrativ prin care să obținem hidrogen din resurse energetice regenerabile și cu o utilizare în industrie ca și un proiect demonstrativ pentru a arăta potențialul acestei tehnologii în sectorul energetic. Toți cunoaștem că această tehnologie este una scumpă în acest moment, dar dezvoltările tehnologice viitoare, care se preconizează a fi puse în practică destul de repede, pentru că avansul tehnologic este unul foarte important, în baza căruia orice tehnologie devine mai ieftină decât a fost în trecut. Chiar aici pot să fac o referire la faptul că în momentul în care au început investițiile în regenerabile în România în 2012, investiția pentru un megawatt de energie fotovoltaică costă în jur de 1.500.000 de euro, iar în acest moment un megawatt de energie fotovoltaică poate fi realizată cu o sumă de 3 ori mai mică, aproape că se poate recupera fără niciun sprijin. Dar există sprijin, există un sprijin masiv pe diferite planuri de susținere a noilor investiții, în special în cele care vizează tranziția verde. Aici mă refer la fondul Just Transition Fund, fondul de tranziție echitabilă, care se adresează județelor cu poluare masivă, așa cum se consideră a fi în țara noastră județele Hunedoara și Gorj, unde probabil trecerea la o altă tehnologie de producție a energiei electrice va afecta și sectorul social. Este foarte mare nevoie ca în acele zone să regândim o industrie diversificată care să preia forța de muncă disponibilizată din sectorul de producție de energie electrică din cărbune. Dar și încă 4 județe nominalizate de către Comisia Europeană, pe care le recunoaștem a fi poluate, pentru că au industrii poluante, cum ar fi județul Dolj, județul Prahova, județul Mureș și județul Galați, unde avem, pe lângă producători de energie electrică din surse fosile, care generează emisii de dioxid de carbon, avem și industrie importante de natură să polueze atmosfera celor zone. Aceste 6 județe primesc în următorii ani, perioada 2021-2027, 4,4 miliarde de euro, bani care se vor îndrepta în special către tranziția verde, dar și pentru ocuparea forței de muncă disponibilizată din sectoarele poluante. O altă sursă de finanțare este sursa care provine din tranzacționarea certificatelor de emisii de dioxid de carbon, o sursă importantă care se cifrează la aproximativ în medie 1 miliard de euro pe an pentru o perioadă de 5-6 ani de zile. O parte importantă din acești bani va reveni Ministerului Economiei și Energiei și vom începe scrierea de proiecte, gestionarea de proiecte și finanțarea acestor proiecte. Sunt și alte resurse din alte de fonduri dedicate tranziției verzi, așa cum știm, fondul de inovare, fondul de modernizare. Avem mecanisme financiare puternice, depinde doar de noi să ne organizăm, să eliminăm la maximum birocrația și să scriem proiecte eligibile pentru ca în următorii câțiva ani de zile România să devină, așa cum zicea și domnul ministru Laslo, să devină un hub energetic. Știți că acum câțiva ani de zile ne gândeam să ne dezvoltăm în special ca și hub, în special în zona de gaze naturale. Dar iată că un studiu al Băncii Mondiale dedicat dezvoltării producției de energie electrică din offshore ne arată că în zona Mării Negre România are o disponibilitate uriașă de a investi în energie eoliană, astfel încât o perioadă de 5-6 ani de zile, spre deosebire de perioada de 20 de ani de zile în care Marea Britanie obținea rezultatele pe care le are acum, o perioadă de doar 5-6 ani de zile, datorită dezvoltării tehnologiilor, România poate un vârf de producție în sectorul eolian, care, mă rog, ca și cifre, ne arată că în zona de ape de adâncime mică, până la 50 de metri, există o posibilitate de dezvoltarea unor parcuri eoliene de până la 72.000 de megawatts și încă peste 50.000 de megawatts în zona de ape adânci. Deja sunt investitori interesați, fie că vorbim de companii importante din sectorul energetic, fie că vorbim de investitori din alte state membre ale Uniunii Europene care și-au arătat interesul. Această zonă, în special, poate fi utilizată pentru dezvoltarea tehnologiilor de hidrogen, tocmai pentru a utiliza hidrogenul nu doar ca un viitor combustibil pentru sectorul industrial sau cel al mobilității, dar și ca o stocare a energiei în afara soluțiilor pe care le știm de acum realizate prin stocarea în baterii. Da, deci ne preocupăm, discutăm cu mediul de afaceri, discutăm cu zona investitorilor interesați, dorim să emitem ghiduri de finanțare în cel mai simplu mod, astfel încât să dăm drumul, să deblocăm investițiile în sectorul energetic, pentru că între valul de investiții din zona regenerabilă din anii 2012-2015 în 2016 există și situația de acum, există un hiatus al investițiilor în sectorul energetic, în special în zona de decarbonare. Acesta este un mesaj, să zicem, de început al conferinței. Rămân pentru questions and answers la dispoziția dumneavoastră.
Mulțumim, domnule ministru, secretar de stat, pentru sublinierile foarte importante de direcții urmărite de către Ministerul Economiei și Energiei și Mediului de Afaceri și sunt convins că acestea vor ajunge foarte repede prin audiența noastră la conferință către cei interesați ca subiecte foarte importante. Thank you, Mr. Havrilets, Secretary of the State, for your underlines related to the potential action of Minister of Economy and Energy. Acum, permiteți-mi să dau cuvântul moderatorului conferinței noastre și reprezentantului oficial al companiei Siemens Energy pentru a face o prezentare a companiei Siemens Energy, cu Siemens în general, a grupului de companii Siemens în general și Siemens Energy în special, și în acest fel să ne familiarizăm cu acțiunile noii companii pe piața românească și nu numai. Please, Mr. Rușeț.
Thank you. First of all, I want to thanks to all the speakers and also to Mr. Minister Borbeli and Mr. Havrilets for the nice words. I have seen that hydrogen is on a tema, a very important topic in Romania, and due to this, I start together with Mr. Stefan and with the World Energy Council to organize this conference. I will use my time in order to present very short the company Siemens Energy, which is a very young company. Is established from the former division of energy in Siemens a couple of months ago, 1st of April. We start our way. In September, we will have an IPO, and from 1st of October, we will be an independent energy company listed on stock exchange. What is interesting in this company, we want and we will cover the whole chain of energy technologies and projects. Another very important point that is defining the new company is flexibility and entrepreneurship. We are covering and we are willing to be close to our customers in all energy fields, as traditional ones and also for the new ones. That's why the company is organized in this moment on 4 divisions. The first is transmission solution, transmission product. Second is the generation. Third is industrial application, and mainly in the oil and gas industry. And last but not least, the new energy division, which is focusing on solution regarding new solution in energy and mainly hydrogen. That's why I start a couple of months ago to investigate what is needed in the Romanian market regarding the hydrogen solution. I have support from our headquarters and some colleagues, very important colleagues, very important specialists in the area will present today the latest status in development for hydrogen solution. But I will not enter in these details. For sure, the colleagues will give you all the necessary technical and technological details. From the perspective of Siemens Energy Romania, this is a company which started a little bit earlier in 1st of March. We are a company of around 200 people covering all the businesses that I mentioned, and new energy hopefully will start after this meeting with some real projects. That's why I will present our colleagues. We have with us, and thank you, Nakul Prasad. Nakul is the Siemens manager for corporate strategy. He's in America, and thank you very much. It's midnight in America, and he will present us some details about hydrogen. Then we have Alexander Peschel, which is a project development director in CEE, located in Vienna. Thank you, Alexander, for participating. As well, we have Asha Lindström, which is the Siemens product positioning manager in Sweden, and she will present us the latest development for using the hydrogen in generation. And last but not least, our main specialist in this area, Thomas, which is a Siemens portfolio consulting professional. And thank you, Thomas, for having time to participate. This was my short presentation about our new company, and I hope that the information that we will give you during the conference will be interesting. We ask you to put as many questions as possible, and for sure we will forward all the information to all participants after the conference and the necessary answers. That's why, Nakul, I will give you the floor, please.
Yes, sorry. Încă doi vorbitori pe care îi aveam, Mr. Varlam from ICSI Râmnicu Vâlcea, alături de vorbitorii de la Siemens, și Petre Palade de la National Institute Natural Physics, Măgurele, care vor completa lista vorbitorilor Siemens. Iar ca ordin organizatoric, pentru fiecare întrebare pe care o doriți, folosiți adresa de mail secretariat@cnr-cme.ro și transmitem întrebările online către vorbitori, astfel încât să puteți primi răspunsul la sfârșitul prezentărilor în cadrul secțiunii întrebări și răspunsuri. Mulțumesc. Poftiți, domnul Rușeț.
Sorry, there are also two Romanian speakers, and I forgot to present. I'm terribly sorry, but Prasad, you can take the floor now. Sorry.
No worries. Thank you very much. Yeah, good morning, everybody, from my side. It's not midnight, it's 3:30, so it's almost coffee time now for me. So, yeah, thanks a lot for the invite as well and attending the meeting. And yeah, first of all, I hope all of you are safe. I think this is very, very challenging times now across the globe. So, really, my sincere hopes that you and your families are safe. And I was so my name is Nakul Prasad. I work in corporate strategy and at Siemens here in Orlando. And I was really listening to the ministers before their introduction, at least the first one. I don't speak Romanian, unfortunately, so I couldn't understand the second one. But I was really excited to hear that hydrogen is on the agenda. I'm passionate personally very much about green energy, and I believe hydrogen is a strong carrier to bridge today's energy with the future energy system. So it's a really unique opportunity. So I'm really excited to hear that. And we talk a lot about hydrogen-related topics, and at the end also about general decarbonization topics. And I, from my end, would like to sort of put more a strategic view on it, how Siemens Energy, as you introduced before, as an energy company, sees hydrogen as a great opportunity to really bridge the present and the future energy systems. Can you see my screen, the presentation?
Yes, you could share the presentation on the screen.
I did not share, did I? So my bad. So let me try again. Can you see it now?
Yes.
Perfect. Okay, so before we talk about hydrogen, we've seen different waves in the past of hydrogen coming and going, but we believe it's fundamentally different this time. And really to understand why, we need to step back and need to understand the overall context. And for that, if you look at the figure to the left, we see various projections related to global greenhouse gas and global warming in general. And we can see that most of the scenarios and pledges will struggle to reach the targets defined by the Paris Agreement by the end of the century. So even the more optimistic ones. And if we look at the emitting sector, so this is a global view, not a regional, very global view, we can see that the power sector, with a share of about 40%, is a key emitter. And of that, coal is responsible for 21% of the worldwide global emissions. On the other hand, you have 60% being emitted from industry, so transport, but industry like steel mills, agriculture as well, and buildings, so they make up 60%. And if you look specifically at the power sector, I think we can acknowledge that the power sector has made substantial gains in CO2 reductions in the past, and that's driven by renewable deployment, so solar, wind, and so on. But also the shift from coal to gas has been very substantial. So that can yield alone 50% of CO2 savings. But looking at the transport sector, the achievements are not that impressive. So it's been a bit more stagnant, so transport and industry particularly. So if you look at steel, cement, these are very difficult to abate sectors. And the progress hasn't been that great. So if you look at the box on the top, it says a share of about 8% of renewables. So of course, we need to focus our decarbonization of all of these sectors individually, that's no doubt. But to really make progress, to achieve deep carbonization, we need to look at sector coupling. So how can we transfer all of the achievements we made in one sector and to the other sector? And that's where hydrogen comes into play. But before I go more into the hydrogen topic, just a couple of sort of general attributes when we talk about the energy transition. So everybody talks about the energy transition now, and it's really sort of the shift from fossil dominated to green energy. Of course, there's a way to do it. We can turn everything into renewables, but that brings in a lot of problems. So it's the high intermittency of renewables, but it's also the lack of availability sometimes, especially solar, only available during the day. What happens at night? Wind is very volatile as well. So relying only on renewables is going to be very challenging in this energy transition, because we need to look at two other aspects as well. We need to look at security, of course. That's extremely important, reliable energy, and it needs to be affordable as well. So these are really the trilemma aspects what the World Energy Council also has defined. So in order to manage and even accelerate the transition, we believe in a sustainable way, we need to really leverage what we have today in terms of assets and infrastructure as much as possible. So an example, if you look at the left sector, the efficiency increase. So we can take existing assets like, let's say, gas turbines. We can convert them from simple cycle to combined cycle, have some substantial gains. We can replace older units, inefficient units with newer ones. Let's say older thermal units driven by oil can be replaced by natural gas, which will give substantial savings. We can have more flexible power solutions to actually back up renewables. So renewables need to have some sort of backup, and energy storage is not always a solution. So here, gas turbines, for instance, can be very, very efficient to increase the deployment of renewables. Fuel shift is another one. So I mentioned the coal to gas shift. I can give you numbers in the US. It's been responsible for about 20% of CO2 reduction over the past decades because of the shift from coal to gas, not only renewables. So these are kind of quick wins in quotation marks, but we can also hybridize gas turbine systems. So taking a gas turbine and combining it with a battery, for instance, and now you have this hyper flexible solution, which in addition is emitting less of CO2 emissions. We need to look more at power to heat applications. So combined heat and power will result in fuel utilization rates of close to 80% or 90% even. So that is much more than combined cycle. And we're going to hear more from Thomas later on in this talk, in this conference. And finally, sort of looking towards the future energy systems, we need to invest now, and we are investing now. And that entails, again, a portfolio of different options. So, of course, we have the renewable energy sources here with solar, wind, which still need more investment and stronger deployment. But other technologies involve carbon capture, for instance. So, again, this is a bridge from present to future, taking a gas plant, adding carbon capture, and using that carbon, or because carbon is also a feedstock to many industrial processes. So there's a kind of a circular economy attached to that as well. But then hydrogen is also a very, very important cornerstone. So we can use hydrogen in gas turbines. We obviously need to produce hydrogen, so using electrolyzers, that's a key element. Power to X, which I'll be talking about, and Alexander is going to be talking about later on in more detail, is also one of these options. So it's really a portfolio we believe in to manage the energy transition. It's not really just banking on one technology. It needs to cover everything and make sure that we leverage existing system with future energy systems. So that now brings me into hydrogen. And the question is always what I get is, okay, what's so special about hydrogen? It's everybody knows it's abundant, it's available, freely available. But the problem is it's not freely as such available. So hydrogen is somewhat bonded in other molecules like water or like natural gas or even higher hydrocarbons. So in general, hydrocarbons. So it's an energy carrier. But that also has a sort of very positive attribute because we need energy to actually extract hydrogen. So what it essentially does then is we can take electricity, so take surplus energy. So we can see a typical sort of duck curve profile here during the day where you have strong renewable energy generation during the day, but in the evenings when the demand is very high, you don't have that production anymore. So you could take during the day the energy, time shifted by converting renewable energy into hydrogen through electrolysis, and in the evening when you need the energy, you can dispatch it. And that's something what batteries also do very, very commonly. And it's always the question about, oh, okay, what is it? Why don't you use a battery? Why are you using hydrogen electrolyzers? And the answer would be hydrogen has the advantage of doing this across any time scale. So I can do it during the day, but I can also do it across seasons, for instance, or even longer time periods, and at very large volumes. So that's the one fundamental property hydrogen has. And the second one is it is already a feedstock to many industrial processes. So if you look at the fertilizer industry, it's a key ingredient to produce ammonia and then produce fertilizers ultimately. In the oil and gas sector, it's very important to remove sulfur, for instance. And in fact, these two industries combined are the largest consumers of hydrogen. But hydrogen can also be used in heat, for instance. If we blend it with natural gas, we can use the existing grids to power furnaces, for instance, or home boilers. depending on the levels, of course, and the safety margins. It's used in the food industry, in the beverage industry as well. And it's starting to gain traction, and that was mentioned by the minister as well, in the mobility sector as well. So we see especially heavy-duty trucks being equipped with fuel cells now. And we will see, and I'll talk about this a bit more later, we will see enhanced use, I'm pretty certain, in transport, and it does not have to be only in pure form, like in fuel cells, but it could be in form of a synthetic hydrocarbon. So if we take an external source, if we take an external source of CO2, for instance, through direct air capture and combine it again with hydrogen, which is produced from renewables, we have this net zero hydrocarbon fuel. So we could have kerosene, for instance, methanol, and any kind of flavor. And in fact, in Germany, there's a big project now coming online where 7 refineries are combining now to produce large-scale hydrogen from stranded offshore wind. So that is sort of gigawatt scale offshore wind by the North Sea, converted into hydrogen. And this is going to be then converted into kerosene used in the Hamburg airport as a transportation fuel to meet future transportation regulations. So that's just one sort of example of how we see hydrogen unfolding, really. And as a result, we kind of join the chorus of different market outlooks, and particularly since it has a sector coupling capability, we kind of believe also that the outlook from today's close to 80 million tons to 2050 being close to 550 million tons in the more optimistic scenario is something which is definitely going to happen. If we use that sort of, looking at the production again, the problem is though with the hydrogen produced today, it's very CO2 intensive because it's using natural gas as a basis or even coal. So 95% is produced of what we call gray hydrogen. So that's taking steam methane reforming and emitting a lot of CO2. So the International Energy Agency estimates about 830 million tons of CO2 emissions from hydrogen production only per year. And may not sound that much given the 35 gigatons or close to 35 gigatons we emit every year, but this is the combined emissions of Indonesia and Great Britain, so quite substantial. But in the future, and it's kind of highlighted by these rainbow colors, and I'm going to talk more about the colors later on, we expect this to be more carbon-free. So we see kind of blue hydrogen, which is a combination of gray and carbon capture, and a lot of green hydrogen from renewable energy sources. So it's going to be a mix, and it has to be a mix, really, to achieve our decarbonization targets. And kind of the end use, what I mentioned, we're definitely going to see, again, sort of repeating more use in mobility, either directly through H2 in fuel cells or in kind of substitute syngas fuel like syn kerosene or something like that. And it also has the potential to displace a lot of industrial uses. So in the steel sector, for instance, and Alexander's going to talk about an example specifically how we help the steel sector reduce the CO2 footprint. The current CO2 hydrogen process can be displaced using green energy, for instance. But we will also see hydrogen more in the power generation sector as well. So if we start blending with natural gas in the gas grid, a lot of gas turbines will automatically see a lot of hydrogen contents as well. And we've seen selective progress now and projects coming up with higher contents of hydrogen for conventional assets, so up to 100% hydrogen in gas turbines, and I'm going to show an example in a bit. There's still a bit of a question mark, I have to say, although I'm a very optimist by nature, but the spreading really of the different forecasts shows that it's still dependent on a number of drivers. So it definitely requires regulatory support. And the minister mentioned a couple of European Union initiatives now. RED II is one, for instance. Germany issued a national hydrogen strategy now, which is very supportive of green hydrogen. So that's one aspect, but that has to happen across the globe as well. So in the US, for instance, it's not that strong. We have some regions like California, which are pretty much pushing the boundaries, but most of the other states are kind of lacking still in the adequate regulatory support to promote this hydrogen economy. It requires commitments of players, and fortunately, a lot of energy companies, including Siemens Energy, but also take BP with their recent announcements, are imposing self-commitments now of players. So these are early trigger signs to say, okay, this is an economy which is really unfolding now. And it's also the economic pressure, and it's kind of tied to the regulatory support. So a CO2 price, for instance, could be, a lot of studies show, could be actually a very good measure to help support this economy in a very efficient, economically efficient way. So these are sort of the question marks still around this economy, but overall, I think with the signposts we're seeing now, this economy is really set to take off very, very soon. I just wanted to sort of step back on the carbon-free aspect. We need to be very careful when we produce hydrogen. So as I mentioned, there's different pathways of producing hydrogen, and we can produce gray hydrogen using conventional methods in natural gas, but that is not going to solve the problem of CO2 emissions overall. So ideally, we would like to have all the sources in green. But just a kind of number crunching here, just to give a bit of perspective, if we were to produce all the required hydrogen today, I mentioned before, of close to 80 million tons a year with renewable energy sources, we would need about dedicated 3,900 terawatt hours. And that is more than 90% of 2018's US power demand. So it's substantial just for producing hydrogen. And if you look into the future, close to 500 million ton, we would need about 26,000 terawatt hours a year just to produce hydrogen, which is more than 100% of 2018's global power demand overall. So there's the challenges are partly economical as well, but it's also the question, how can we achieve this goal as quickly as possible? And just banking on renewables is going to be very challenging again, because just the sheer amount of dedicated renewables we would need for hydrogen. So that brings us really into the rainbow colors of hydrogen. I think all of you have heard about green, blue, gray, yellow, pink, I don't know, whatever color is popping up every week, more or less. But from an economic standpoint, still the conventional path, using natural gas, steam methane reforming, albeit emitting CO2 with about 830 million tons a year, still the most economical way, with about 1.3 euros per kilogram produced hydrogen. So that's a global average. Of course, it varies by region. It varies by natural gas price and so on, but that's the global average. So one step, which is not that expensive, could be the so-called blue hydrogen option. So using the same route, using the same kind of infrastructure, but using carbon capture to remove your CO2. So this becomes virtually net zero, this hydrogen. And this is what we call blue, and it's about $1.9 euros per kilogram. So that's again the global average. So that's an economic way of doing it. Another way is to use natural gas and use pyrolysis. So pyrolysis is an established process which converts natural gas into hydrogen and solid carbon. So it doesn't have the CO2 aspect to it. It's still in early stages in this whole economy. So it's called cyan H2, at least we label it. Probably you see different colors, again, associated around the world. We spoke about green hydrogen. Unfortunately, from a price point, on an average price point, it's very expensive. And I'll dive a bit deeper into this price aspect later on. Another way of using electrolysis is combining with nuclear. And I did a bit of research. If my research is correct, I think Romania has about 20% of nuclear energy. So that is also a way to have sort of low-cost hydrogen at larger scales as well. So in the US, one example is that a lot of nuclear plants are at risk of being stranded. So that is also another opportunity to convert these nuclear power plants into large-scale, giga-scale factories of ammonia, for instance. So really giving it a second life. And finally, hydrogen has been also appearing as a waste. So a lot of industrial processes in refineries, steel mills, for instance, have been emitting hydrogen along with other constituents like CO, for instance. So it's a syngas. There's two options. Either you flare it. Of course, that's very environmentally unfriendly. Or you can actually reconvert it into power. And gas turbines have been doing that quite successfully, even with higher hydrogen contents up to 50, 60% in the past. So you're thus converting this waste into energy, and it can be both power as well as heat. Sorry, it's kind of taking his own life here, and convert it into heat. So really utilizing it and minimizing the CO2 footprint. In terms of transportation, that is also a big question mark. And I think the minister mentioned initially that we need to look at across the entire value chain. So it's not only production, but it's also the way to how to get hydrogen from A to B. And there are various options. We can blend it in pipelines, for instance. That could be a straightforward way. It requires a bit of upgrades of the pipelines. Because of safety issues, hydrogen is a very light element, so we have to make sure the sealings are correct. It can cause embrittlement, so the material needs to be stainless steel. But if it's done properly, this could be a very good way of using, again, today's asset. And if you look at the US specifically, we in fact have close to more than 2,000 kilometers of dedicated hydrogen pipelines already installed. And even in the US, in the UK, for instance, there are several projects now looking at increasing the share of pipeline blends to 25% and 50% and even beyond. So there's a lot of activity going on there. Can be transported in form of liquid hydrogen in trucks, for instance. But another very important way of transporting hydrogen is using a chemical. So it could be methanol, it could be ammonia. So methanol using an external CO2 source, as I mentioned before, ammonia using an air separation unit and then extracting nitrogen, combining it. And the advantage, again, is that there is already an existing supply chain for these chemicals worldwide. So you can use the existing infrastructure. And it can also be directly converted into electricity again. So here where fuel cells come into play, or even gas turbines, as we're going to talk about it later on. And finally, already spoke about the end use. So it's mainly refineries, chemicals, other industries. But again, to emphasize, in the future, we will see enhanced uses or growing emerging uses more in the mobility sector and in other emerging sectors, even re-electrification sectors, due to the sector coupling aspect. So just a bit about economics. Apologize, it's probably a busy graph, but it kind of shows where we are, where we're heading towards, and where the opportunities are for green hydrogen. So the x-axis here shows the price of electricity. So it's in this case, it's US cent per kilowatt hour. On the y-axis, we show the cost of production of hydrogen per kilogram using electrolysis. And this gray bar shows the reference range for gray hydrogen. So using natural gas and steam methane reforming. So depending on the prices, there's a variation, but that's your benchmark price of about $1.5 to $2.5 per kilogram hydrogen produced. Now, this plot shows a couple of sensitivities. Of course, electricity prices are very, very important. So if we want to use green hydrogen, we need to ensure access to low-cost renewable energies, ideally free energies. So especially when you curtail. And this is not always given. So particularly in Germany, there was an issue with the feed-in tariffs, so that electrolyzers essentially had to pay a premium for renewable energy, which is kind of counteracting the whole system. So ideally, you want to have free electricity. Typically, 60% of your production costs are down to electricity costs. The other one is the operating hours of your electrolyzer. So you want to maximize your capacity, your running hours with the electrolyzer to really lower your overall life cycle costs. So the different curves here for 2,000 hours, 4,000 and 6,000 hours show how it kind of shifts down. And it's pretty intuitive, of course, because the more you maximize your operating hours, the quicker you amortize your capital costs, which are still fairly high since we're in the beginning of the sort of development curve for electrolyzers. But just as a reference, if you look at Germany, for instance, where we have higher costs of renewable energy power, you're close to 5.5 cents per kilogram produced hydrogen. So again, that's due to the cost of electricity, of producing electricity with renewables. But if you look at other locations with optimum renewable power costs, such as Chile, for instance, in Patagonia, where we have high capacity factors of wind, high availabilities, we can come down to almost 2 cents per kilogram hydrogen already today. Now, this, of course, now prompts for a kind of a global supply chain, because we're going to see this happening in the future, that the production of hydrogen, low-cost production, is not collocated with the use of hydrogen. So that's where feedstocks like methanol, chemicals like methanol and hydrogen and ammonia will come into play, where we have the global trading system of cheap renewable energy, shipping it from one country to another one, for instance. And we will see further reduction in electrolysis costs definitely in the future. A, due to carbon regulations, which will make hydrogen more attractive, but B, also because capital costs are going to reduce substantially. So as I mentioned, we are still in the beginning phase. Alexander is going to talk a bit about the scales of hydrogen production where we are. And as we go towards gigawatt scales, we're going to see more economies of scales and thus capital costs dropping substantially. So long story short, really my main takeaway is it's challenging to produce green hydrogen. We need a different array of hydrogen production methods today, but even today, there are opportunities worldwide where we can produce cost-competitive green hydrogen without any CO2 emissions. And that makes it so exciting already. So we talked about sector coupling, main uses we're going to see in transport, but one aspect I wanted to highlight is a recent EU project, which is a power-to-power project. So it's a project called HyFlex Power. It's where Siemens is participating with a number of industry partners and university partners. And this unit will take surplus renewable energy, convert it into hydrogen through electrolysis. So Siemens will supply an electrolyzer, and it will then reconvert this hydrogen in an SGT-400 unit up to 100%. And it's not only going to produce electricity of 12 megawatts, it's also going to produce thermal heat of 20 megawatts. So the fuel utilization rates of this unit as such are going to be very high, close to 90% or even higher. So the overall round trip efficiency is very, very efficient. So that's always a concern when we look at power-to-power systems, specifically when we only generate power and not heat. And the very important aspect of this unit is it's going to burn any blend of hydrogen and natural gas. And that's very important because it makes it continuously dispatchable now. And that's due to the volatile nature of hydrogen. There is no guarantee, really. We're always going to have hydrogen depending on the production of the renewables. So there's always going to be fluctuation and uncertainty. So if there's not enough hydrogen available, we can always revert back to the natural grid, blend the two fuels, and provide power and heat. So it's continuously reliable and dispatchable. And that is very important, as I mentioned, also in the energy transition, where we see an increased fluctuation of production, increased volatility. So having that security is a very important attribute. And that's why we also think that gas turbines are going to play a very important role in the future, because this unit will be repurposed without too much effort. So it's going to be operational in 2023. Of course, we need to develop the combustion system to reach 100%, but the overall plant as such is not going to change too much. So that's really a good example of repurposing existing assets, turning them into a zero carbon asset for the future at a relatively low cost.
Nakul, we are over the time.
I apologize. So if you give me 1 minute to wrap up.
Yes, please. Thank you.
Thank you so much for timekeeping, yes. So finally, this is also my final slide. I would just briefly talk about where Siemens will really play in this hydrogen economy. So we are a partner across the entire value chain, and we're going to see more examples here. It's a very exciting development, but Siemens already has a strong track record of deploying strong, large turnkey solutions, power plant solutions. So we have strong expertise. So we provide the planning, the consultation, the financing, but we also have the components like renewable energies through Gamesa. We have the grid connection, the transmission business. We have the core business now, electrolysis, the new energy business, focusing electrolyzer technology. We have rotating equipments for compressors and so on, including gas turbines, of course. And all the other sort of complex uses as well of hydrogen can be supported through partnering with other companies or even providing own equipment. So really, providing the entire solution across the entire value chain. That's where Siemens wants and is already a partner and wants to strengthen its position of being partner. So really excited to have this dialogue today as well with all of you. And yes, thank you very much. I apologize for overrunning, and I'll hand it back to you then. Thanks for your attention, and I'm happy to. I don't know how we're going to do with the questions, so if it's in the end now.
Yeah, many thanks, Nakul. It was a very, very interesting presentation also from my side. I hope also the audience will appreciate. For sure, we have a sum of questions already. The plan is to have a Q&A at the end of this conference. I think it is 12:30, if I'm not wrong. And I will try to distribute this question upfront, translate it to you in order to be able to give the answers.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Gheorghe, please take the floor.
Yes. Permiteți-mi să invit acum pe domnul Mihai Varlam, director general la Institutul de la Râmnicu Vâlcea, ICSI, pentru prezentarea dânsului. Allow me please to invite Mr. Mihai Varlam, General Director of the Research Institute from Râmnicu Vâlcea, which present us his work. Please, Mr. Varlam. Puteți face share screen.
Yes. Good morning. First few words about XE. XE is just for your invited speakers. XE, it's an R&D brand in Romania. I would say well known in developing technology for the last 50 years. This year it's celebrating 50 years of presence in the R&D area. We've been in the hydrogen business for the last 15 years, and from 2009 we have inside our institute the National Center for Hydrogen and Fuel Cell, which was developed with a mission to implement in Romania, starting, I told you, with 2009, to implement hydrogen-based energy technologies. From that moment, we try to be present in the industry place with this kind of applications, hydrogen applications. We suffered from all this up and down situation for hydrogen. I will tell you more about that probably next. Now, because there is this kind of explosion, said in a good way, of hydrogen topics in the Europe and globally, we have a lot of things to do. When the organizer told me to give a presentation, I was undecided what kind of things should I say now, and I believe it's not the time and nor the place that it will be a scientific presentation. I will not tell you too much about what we are doing in XE because it's not the moment now. I will just try to say our perspective and our vision for developing hydrogen project in Romania. I try to share I take this one. it's okay, could be seen.
Yes, it's okay.
Yeah, good. So, what is the context? Everyone said know that there is this combined situation with the commitment of Europe for Green Deal, which is a big program, and also it comes also this unfortunately thing with coronavirus, and it seems that there is a time for a clean restart of Europe economy, and Romania should be part of that. You know probably that few weeks ago the European Commission presented its hydrogen strategy, new hydrogen strategy, where they said it's needed to make clean hydrogen a viable solution for a climate neutral economy, and to build a dynamic value chain for these resources in Europe. European Commission is convinced that from 2025 to 2030, hydrogen should become an important part of integrated energy systems, and at least 40 gigawatts of renewable hydrogen electrolyzer should be implemented, with a production of up to 10 million tons of renewable hydrogen in Europe. Green hydrogen, it's green industry, sorry, it's about to be flooded now with billions in investment. There are several programs at the European level, but also from government of the member states, which it's trying to fight climate change, but also to rebuild the economy from this COVID virus situations. With over 70% share of global GDP linked to hydrogen, countries' roadmaps, hydrogen it's trying now to make a return to the front lines as a critical energy vectors. The hydrogen, as I try to say, it's an old business. It suffered from several disappointments during the time. From long time, it was supposed to be the future of energy. Was always a fascinating topics, but not always convinced about the commercial possibility of the technology to be implemented. Back in 1972, it was first time when the European Commissions said something about the possibility of using hydrogen. At that time, it was linked with nuclear power. Of course, now with this situation of nuclear energy, the things are changed. But the hydrogen remains always in the front line of the R&D topics. Now the times of hydrogen has begun. An official of European Commission said the timing is right, the fundamentals are there, and we have the know-how. All we need is a bit of luck. For decades, scientists have been embraced its virtue more broadly as a carbon-free energy carriers for transport, domestic and industrial energy applications. It is known, as before was said, that the cost of wind and solar energy, renewable energy, decreased significantly. electrolyzers are now larger and the costs are decreasing. The fuel cell, also the technology of fuel cell and storage for hydrogen-powered car are lighter and more efficient. So all the things are there to be are in place. I mean, to be developed and linked. Why hydrogen? Everyone know that compared to batteries, hydrogen can release more energy per unit mass. Also, hydrogen could be refilled in a shorter time as it is for the combustion engines now. Hydrogen is also today playing an important role in energy storage, which in the future will be increasingly necessary both in remote operation. So there are a lot of possibilities to use hydrogen, and probably more will be developed in the future. Why now hydrogen? Because the majority of analysis shows that the hydrogen value chain is now underpinned by a series of mature technology. I told you that technology for the key elements of the hydrogen chain technology are there, meaning electrolyzer, fuel cell, the conversion of hydrogen to liquid and solid fuels are in place, and now not only the place, there are in the phase of market activation. The solar panel industry provided a recent precedent for this kind of energy industry. Now the large solar farm are now generating attractive returns on investment without any assistance from government. But if the solar panels could feed into a market with ready-made infrastructure, the case is less straightforward for hydrogen. The technology to help produce and distribute hydrogen will need to develop in concert with application themselves. Oops, sorry. What's the job of R&D? Because I'm talking about R&D business in the hydrogen area. It seems at first glance that hydrogen may well be the decarbonized silver bullets, but it is not like that. For sure, the future it will be for hybrid system, and hydrogen it will be part of this whole view. Remains a lot of challenging things to be solved from technological and cost-related things. Everyone knows that the price, the costs are still high. There are also some non-technical challenges that need to be managed, and one of that is, of course, the public acceptance of this new technology. All these aspects should be solved by the project of R&D organization, and in this area we are now activating. There are in our opinion, there are three fundamental arguments that hydrogen is essential. First of all, it's hydrogen is the best choice for decarbonization of selected segment in transport, industry, and buildings. I will not go into that because everyone knows that in this moment the gas grid, which covered all the Europe for heating, It's requires transformations. Also, everyone knows that the solutions to replace, solution to replace that are not really in place now. I mean, they are costly and sometimes even impossible to be implemented, meaning heat pumps and electrification of heating. So the hydrogen seems to be the solution for all these problems. In transport, hydrogen knows everyone that is the most promising decarbonization options for, especially for heavy trucks, heavy mobile systems, trains, maritime transportation, and so on. Also, industry can burn hydrogen to produce high-grade heat and use the fuel in several projects for them. The second thing is that hydrogen will play a systemic role in the transition to renewable energy sources by providing a mechanism to flexibly transfer energy across sector, times, and place. Sectors, I'm talking about different areas where the hydrogen it's helping to coupling the systems, allowing to convert generated power into a necessary form to store, and after that to transfer to end use for meeting the demands. Times, you know, the hydrogen now in this moment it's used as a possibility to shift and balance the generation with the consumers. For the place, meaning that hydrogen provides energy. Oh, again, sorry. Provides a link between regions with low-cost renewable with the one with smaller possibility to be used. The third idea is the transition to hydrogen. It's aligned with customer preference and convenience. Obviously, any alternative for low carbon technology should meet customer preference, and if not, will face adoption difficulties. In transportation, of course, hydrogen offers the same driving range and refueling speed as a combustion engine. Of course, the energy companies can blend hydrogen or synthetic methane into the gas grid via power-to-gas plant. Of course, also in industry, specific application of hydrogen will decrease the carbon emissions, and there is a big potential for generating. It is estimated about 2,000 terawatt hours of hydrogen in Europe by 2050, which will be enough for, let's say, about 40 million large cars, for about 2 million trucks, and about 250,000 of buses.
Domnul Varlam, vă rugăm să scurtați prezentarea și dumneavoastră. Mai aveți un minut.
Da. Thank you. Sorry. There are two projects I would like just to tell you something about what we are trying to do in the next period. period of time, there is a project for a pilot project for prove that hydrogen technology capability to hit rural areas of about 100 houses, and it will be based on green hydrogen productions and implemented in an isolated area. The project should start at the end of this year, and there is also a memorandum of assignment by the government, Romanian government, which it's proposed to build a hub of hydrogen, which should be a kind of catalyzer for development of various hydrogen-based project in Romania. It will gather research and developing companies, academia for education, industry as companies which have interest in this kind of project, and of course the government for new standardization systems. It's a raw hydro hub concept which will have different department, and which will try to develop, as I told you, different challenges which still exist in these areas. Thank you very much. That was everything.
Very much. Mulțumim, domnul Varlam, pentru expunerea dumneavoastră interesantă și așteptăm ulterior și alte contribuții și vă vom invita și cu alte ocazii la prezentările noastre, la temele și conferințele noastre. Domnul Rușeț, aveți cuvântul. Please, Mr. Rușeț.
Many thanks, Mr. Varlam. Very interesting presentation, and I hope that we will be in contact in the future for collaboration. And I would like now to give the floor to Alexander Peschel, a very kind colleague of mine from Vienna, which is involved heavily in a project right now in developing a project in area of the Alexander, please. Seems that Alexander is not anymore in a meeting, or
no, he is. He's muted.
You have to.
Here I am. Sorry for that. Good morning once again. I'm pleased to be part of your event. Thank you for inviting me, and I do hope I can contribute some information, insights about what we are doing. I'm talking with a lot of different companies and utilities and industry companies about potential utilization of hydrogen, and in fact I was involved in the first large-scale hydrogen project in Austria for the steel industry, which I will give you a short overview. And I will try to start with my presentation, but I'm not able to share my screen, unfortunately. I'm not allowed to. Zoom is saying to me I'm not allowed to share my screen.
Maybe Mr. Georgi can.
Now it's possible. Thank you very much for that. So you should see my screen now. Is it right?
It's okay.
Perfect. Thank you very much. So I want to start immediately where Nakul ended, going into more details about the technology of generating hydrogen via electrolysis. You have seen that slide already, talking about what's necessary and where we are focused on. Of course, we are talking with the various companies as mentioned about further utilization of hydrogen in converting hydrogen into other hydrocarbons. Let's first focus on the pure hydrogen generation by the means of electrolysis. Most of you may be aware that currently there are 3 different technologies available to generate hydrogen via electrolysis. The one is alkaline electrolysis, which is operating quite at a high operational temperature. The second one is the PEM electrolysis. I will give you some more words about that immediately. And the third one is the high temperature electrolysis, which currently is still in a status of laboratory first pilots. So if you're thinking of, if we are talking about larger scales of electrolysis projects to be realized now or in the near future, we really need to focus either on alkaline or on PEM electrolysis. We at Siemens Energy have clearly focused on PEM electrolysis, on that type of technology, where you are using a polymer membrane in order to divide the hydrogen and oxygen modules of water. And the main reason, not the only one, but the main reason is we see, as Nakul already mentioned and explained, electrolysis as a major part of future complete energy systems. And if you're talking about energy systems utilizing green electricity, then we are, and also hydrogen for storing electricity, then we are immediately in the question of how to manage high dynamics, because sun is not always shining, wind is not always blowing, and so on. And the PEM electrolysis is the only technology which is really available, as you can see here, with cold start, with intermittent operation, with very dynamic operation. So this is the reason why we are focusing on PEM electrolysis. And one of the examples is the project I will show you later on, where we exactly show as well this dynamic, which is necessary to be part of a complete future energy system. So we started with the development of electrolysis technology already very early. In 2011, we built up our first lab scale demo electrolyzer, a very small one, of course, but this is something which still is running in our labs, mainly to see what is the long-term experience and the long-term development of such an electrolysis. In 2015, we pushed onto the market the so-called Silyzer 200, where we realized several projects. We have a lot of reference projects available in Germany. We are currently building up one in Dubai and some other countries. And what the status actually is 2018, 2020 is the so-called Silyzer 300. This is currently the biggest PEM electrolysis available on the market in the world. And this is something we are convinced we can utilize for the current needs of projects, for the current sizes of projects, because with this technology, we can reach up to several hundred megawatts to be realized based on that technology. But that won't be the end. As Nakul said already, there will be much more need in the future, and we are working already on the next generation to go far more beyond and then to come into the gigawatt area, where we expect to be in somewhere 2030. So if we are talking about this current available technology, so this is the 300 as mentioned, where we are reaching out for 17.4, 17.5 power demand and are able to generate 330 kilograms hydrogen per hour. You see here, this electrolysis consists of 24 modules, and this is also one of the reasons why we are able to drive that quite dynamically, also a little bit playing with the different modules, but the modules itself are already able to be operated very dynamically. Very often the discussion comes up about what is the efficiency of electrolysis and how much electricity or energy do we lose here. So this is typically, this electrolysis does have a system efficiency of about 75%. This is somehow the kind of operational mode we are normally using in projects where we are involved. It's in fact, it's possible to reach a little bit higher system efficiency with a little bit lower power demand. It's always the question of how you need the electrolysis and what is the use case and how to go further on and to operate. Why are we talking about such sizes of electrolysis? Because some others are talking about, well, we are coming up with 1 or 2 megawatts, that's enough. I want to step back to the slide which you have seen already by Nakul, and what I added here is on the right side some kind of calculation which size of electrolysis would be necessary to reach these goals which we have mentioned here on the right side. So if you look here, for instance, on the energy use case, where the idea is to substitute natural gas in Europe, in Northern America, by utilizing the existing gas grids, not to get lost of any existing assets. So this would mean we need 47 gigawatts on electrolysis only for 3% substitution of natural gas. Please have in mind, in Germany, as well as in Austria and in some other countries in Europe, currently where we have large assets with gas networks, the discussion is currently ongoing in so-called greening the gas. That means raising the part of or the percentage of hydrogen in the gas grid, which is currently actually very often below 1%, up to 20%. So then you can imagine which sizes of electrolysis we will need. You have here some other examples, but this exactly underpins and underlines why we are focusing very much on scaling up and on the large scale, because this is not only a question of achieving also lower capex by enlarging and utilizing scalability. This is also simply the question of what is needed in order to decarbonize the various sectors and to couple these sectors in the so-called sector coupling, which means that the generated hydrogen you're using directly for mobility, industry, or energy, where some examples had been already shown. What I want to show you more in detail is the example of industry. If we look into the industry a little bit more in detail, industry is currently responsible for around 19% of the CO2 emissions, or had been in 2017, to be honest. The issue is rather that it's a little bit complicated to decarbonize some parts of these industries, and especially iron, steel, chemicals very often are not easily to be decarbonized on a normal way. And just take a look on that here. It's a little bit busy, but I will try to help you. So this is the example of the steel industry. So if you look here on the first line, you see here the CO2 emissions in a steel plant, in a typical steel plant, where you see the preparation of raw materials is responsible for around 26% of the emissions. The hot blast furnace is responsible of more than the half of the CO2 emissions, and so on. So there are several green paths to be used in the steel industry, what can be done and what partially is already done today. For instance, utilizing a lot of scrap metal for the raw materials, where you can reduce some part of these emissions. You can use carbon capture and storage, but this is a little bit difficult because, especially in Europe, there are very much discussions ongoing about carbon capture and storage, and there are also countries where it's not allowed to utilize that part of technology. So also this won't be a real, cannot solve everything. Utilizing of renewable electricity, yes, can be done for the arc furnace, for heating, but the main part, the hot blast furnace, cannot be solved with that. And there is only one technology available to solve these emissions in steel industry. This is the direct reduction process. And direct reduction process means you're producing steel by directly introducing hydrogen into the steel making process. And if you're using green hydrogen, then you can really go down with the emissions significantly and get rid of this 54% emissions currently blown into the air of a typical steel plant. So this is possible. This had been shown already in pilot plants. And what we are doing here, this is a so-called flagship project of the European Union. It's called H2 Future, where we installed at the steel plant in Austria a 6 megawatt electrolysis based on the technology I have shown you previously. And so this generates around 1,200 cubic meters per hour green hydrogen. And this green hydrogen then is utilized in the steel making process in order to, with that technology, direct reduction, as I have shown just right now, to reduce the emissions. Of course, this is only a very, very small part for that steel plant. We would need a much more larger electrolysis in the future to completely eliminate the emissions. But in this project, which is already up and running since around 1 year, we have shown that it is possible, that it works. We also have shown here, this was a prerequisite of the European Commission, that we are able to show an efficiency of 80% and more. This is something we have shown here. And one more interesting thing is that we are showing as well in that project an additional contribution to sector coupling, because we are not simply utilizing the hydrogen for steelmaking project, we are also utilizing the electrolysis itself to produce grid, to supply for grid services. That means this electrolysis is qualified for primary, secondary, and tertiary frequency reserve services for the Austrian power grid, and is driven, in fact, by the TSO, by the transmission system operator of the Austrian power grid, in order to help stabilize the Austrian power grid when it's needed, with dynamically operating as it's necessary for primary and secondary frequency reserve, to stabilize, help stabilize the grid. So this is the additional value in combining two different use cases in one electrolysis plant. And this is only possible with that type of electrolysis, PEM electrolysis I mentioned at the beginning. So this is the reason why we are focusing on that. And in fact, wherever we are talking about use cases with customers, with industry customers, with utilities, we are always talking about how to combine several use cases in order to make it more efficient, in order to make the business case fly. Because as Nakul as well mentioned at the beginning, the financial dynamics are a little bit difficult still, and you have seen that in a little bit different format already, where Nakul explained that depending on the cost of electricity and the operational time the cost of green hydrogen then ends up. So we are talking here about a typical 50 megawatt plant. And if we are talking about typically 4,000 hours, then we are somewhere in the range of 4 to 7, 8 cents euros per kilogram green hydrogen, based on the electricity price, either 3 cents or 6 cents, only to make it clear. But, and this is something I also wanted to mention. Of course, the electricity price is an important lever in the whole financial business case. But we have talked about, or I have talked about several electricity providers telling me, for instance, a wind park provider telling me, well, I have a wind park already operational since 10 years. The wind park is fully written off. So if I'm not able, or if I'm not allowed to feed in my electricity into the grid because the grid is overloaded or the power is not needed, then I simply need to shut down my wind park. But the assets are here. So we do not talk about 3 cents per kilowatt or whatsoever. We only talk about simply operational costs of existing assets, nothing more, in a status where the wind park operator is not able to sell his electricity. And the same applies to a water power plant operator telling me, if I'm not able to sell my electricity because the grid is overloaded, power is not needed whatsoever, why should I simply put my water power plant out of operation? It's here, and we could produce at much lower cost. And these are typical use cases where the business plans have to be calculated and can be calculated in a completely different way. So then we are not talking about any longer about the 6 cents per kilowatt hours. So this is something please have in mind if developing complete projects here, in combining the several use cases, combining several revenue streams, and getting very fast already today into real feasible use cases, not only from a technology point of view, but as well from a business case of view. And please keep in mind, and this was also something, that it's not only the electrolysis itself. Of course, this is something which is the heart, more or less, of generating green hydrogen. It's much more, and it's the combination of everything, of the grid access, of the hydrogen storage, of the necessary compression. And by combining all these things, this is the real challenge where we are working together with our customers. Only to give you one example, if the hydrogen is needed in the steel plant, we are talking about a pressure level of more or less atmospheric, or 10 to 20 bars. If we are talking about utilizing hydrogen in mobility issues, we are talking about pressure levels between 350 and 700 bars. The same applies to the purity of the required hydrogen. So in combination of all these things, it's not always necessary to dimension the storage, the compression, and all other system parts for the full use case. Rather, in the intelligent combination, there can be achieved that this pays back very fast. And we have shown that in several projects already. One reference project of us is in Germany, the Energiepark Mainz, where we are showing all these use cases. And yeah, that's it already from my side, because I think I'm already over time.
Thank you very much, Alexander. It was very interesting. We are waiting for the question on the live, and we will ask in the Q&A session as planned. Mr. Stefan Georgie, please. You have to unmute your mic first. Your mic is mute.
allow me please to invite for next presentation Mrs. Asa Lindström from Siemens for his presentation, for next presentation. And of course, she has the right for submission of or share of the screen. Please.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Stefan.
Could you see my screen now?
Yes, it's okay.
Yes.
Please.
Thank you very much. So, my name is Åsa Lyckström. I'm working for Siemens Energy. I'm located in Finspång, Sweden. And since March, I'm working from my home office. And I hope you all stay safe wherever you are. Today, I will talk about the hydrogen combustion in Siemens gas turbines. There we go. So Siemens have quite many different sizes of gas turbines. From the very top, we see the largest gas turbine, it's up to 600 megawatt size. And all the way to the bottom, it's around 5 megawatt. So it's a big range of gas turbines we have within Siemens. And all turbines can handle hydrogen in one way or the other. There are different combustion systems in different sizes of gas turbines. Today, I will focus on the gas turbines that we produce in Finspång. And that's the size of the STT-800, 750, 700, and STT-600. Looking at the STT-800, 700, and 600, they have the same combustion system. So the way they handle the hydrogen, it's similar to each other. And we have capability of burning up to 60% hydrogen already today. I will dig into the gas turbine a little bit more. I'm not sure if all of you have seen a gas turbine from the inside before. So here we have the picture of the STT-800 gas turbine. From the left, the combustion air comes in through the compressor, and the compressor blades compress the air. So that when it enters into the combustion chamber, it's really high pressure and high temperature. You can see the combustion chamber. It's an annual combustion chamber. It's a bit yellow in the middle of the picture. And into here, you can see all these 30 burners. It's the pieces that are going into the yellow part in the middle. That's the burner system. And the burners are dry, low emission, so there's no water injection. It's just the gas that we infuse, and it's pre-mixed gas with air. And in the combustion, I will come back to this, the burners and the combustion. So I just wanted to be sure that you are with me where they are located in the turbine. And after the combustion system, you have the 3 blades from the turbines. Then that's a turbine module that produces the power. And then the heated air go out to the right in this picture. When burning hydrogen, it's a bit different, hydrogen compared to natural gas. They have quite many similarities, but it's also different in some ways. And looking at hydrogen, it ignites and burns much faster than natural gas. It means that the flame are much faster. And it also has a wider flame region, which means it can burn in a different ratio compared to how much air you mix together with how much fuel you have. And hydrogen has a lower ignition energy. It means that it stops burning much faster than natural gas, and it also have a lower density, but still within the range, kind of close to the natural gas. Talking about when it's burned fast, looking at the picture in this slide, looking from the left, you see a normal combustion flame, how it looks like from the burner into the combustion chamber. And the more hydrogen you infuse, you can see if you go up to 60%, the flame, it's not as big as it was for the natural gas, because it's burning so fast, it's crawling back, and then it's possible, it might be flashbacks because it's burning so fast. So we kind of, for the engineers, we have to push the flame out of the burner system. So this is what the R&D and the development is trying to make sure they have the control of the flame in this very high temperature and high pressure area. In Finspång, we have been working with learning how to handle hydrogen in many years. Looking at this specific burner system, dry low emission, we have been using it since 2008 with hydrogen. We have developed it step by step to make sure that we learn as much as possible how hydrogen is handled within the gas turbine in a safe way, and also with the low emissions. So looking at the timeline in the bottom, you can look at 2006, 2017. That was the first time we offered a mix of 50% hydrogen into the gas turbines with still low levels of NOx. In 2018, we were ready to offer the STT600 with up to 60% hydrogen. And now we have sold the first 600 with up to 60% hydrogen. It will be in commercial operation this fall, in December, I think. Going forward, we have done more tests, and we will do more R&D tests this year. And the goal is to come to 100% hydrogen in the coming years, with still low NOx emissions. Today, when we say that we can burn up to 60% hydrogen, that's a really high level compared to other competitors in gas turbine. But all gas turbine manufacturers in all sizes are working with hydrogen because we all think it's a really good fuel for the future. The way that we have developed it, we have been working with additive manufacturing. We have additive manufacturing facility where we can actually print the burner. So when the R&D develop the burners and they say, could you change this? We think this is a really good way to change the burner. The additive manufacturing can print the burner is just a few weeks. And then we can test the gas turbine with this burner. And the R&D colleagues can come back and say, could you adjust this and this? And then we print a new burner in just a few weeks. So it's really a rapid development going on right now.
If I may help you for the audience, we have a surprise. Today there will be a signing of a contract. I cannot disclose which, but we will have 2 SGT 750 in the next year and a half installed in Romania.
Really good news. Thank you. So now we have mostly talked about hydrogen. And hydrogen is really an important fossil-free fuel. Looking to the left in this picture, that's the current levels, current fuels that we can handle in the gas turbines. And top of the purple bars, you can see 50 to 60% hydrogen. And right now we are developing to reach to close to 100%. And just in the coming years, we will have up to 100%. That's our target. But we cannot only handle hydrogen today. We have other fossil-free fuels that we can handle as well. In gas phase, we can handle biomethane, e-methane, biogases, and biopropane. And a gas turbine can also handle liquid fuel. And today we have the possibility to operate on fossil-free diesels. And we develop that further. We have tests coming up now, the coming years, for more possibility to burn different diesel fuels that are fossil-free. So I think flexibility with different fuels will be very important in the future. It might be hydrogen, but it also might be other fuels that you can kind of mix in, depends on the price of the fuels in your area. And also here for other green fuels, the additive manufacturing and the rapid prototyping of the burners are really important. So I'd like to talk about one project that we have here in Finspång. It's a zero emission hydrogen turbine center. This project is to show future complex energy system. I mean, as all the speakers today have talked about, it will be a complex energy systems. And what we build up now in Finspång is that we will have the gas turbine test facility where we test run the gas turbines before they're delivered. And close to that one, we will install solar panels, an electrolyzer, and a battery. And this system now, when we operate a gas turbine or get the power from the solar, we will produce hydrogen in the electrolyzer. We can store the hydrogen, and we can then infuse it in the next turbine test as fuel. And this will be a showcase or demonstration plant for this complex future energy systems. And we think it's really an important puzzle pieces to show that all this technique is already there. It's available today. It's just to optimize it and make sure that we have the right sizes of it and the price levels of the fuels, etc. So the project will be located in Finspång, Siemens facility here, and we're working with some partners. It's 2 universities, Chalmers University in Gothenburg, Sweden, and Bologna University in Italy. And then we have the local partners, the municipality in Finspång and country administrative board of Östergötland. So the local partners are with us, and Linde are also included. And we have get funding from the European Union, ERANAT Smart Energy System. This center will be up running before next summer. So if this corona will change and we can meet again, I hope you get the possibility to come here and visit us, and you can look at the center. So this is actually my last slides already, because we're running a bit out of time, I understand. So wrapping up, if you look to the left in this picture, all gas turbines from Siemens can handle hydrogen in some levels, up to 60% for the medium-sized industrial gas turbines. Small hydrogen content can be modified, can be used in the gas turbine without any modifications. So if you have hydrogen content up to 5 or 15%, it might be just possible to use in the existing gas turbines already. If you have a gas turbine today and you would like to upgrade it in the future for utilizing hydrogen, that's also possible. We can use change some components, and then you can start operating on hydrogen or other fossil-free fuels. And Siemens is right now working really hard to get up to 100% hydrogen and up to 100% fossil-free gas turbines. It might be hydrogen mixed with other biogases or others, depends on what fuels the customer have available. And to the right in this picture, I'd just like to again go through the conclusions. Having a gas turbine today, it's a future-proof investment. It couldn't be updated to future fuels. Depends on what fuel will be available. And it could be carbon-free power generation utilizing a gas turbine. We have high fuel flexibility, and we are pushing the limits really hard now for other green fuels. And we are collaborating with the customers to see what fuels are most interesting for them and what fuels they will have in the future. And when we do this changing of fuel, we are making sure that we stick into the emission limits, both for CO2 emissions and also for the NOx limits. So we hope this could be helpful for the energy systems in the future and to decarbonize. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Asha. It was a very interesting presentation, and I'm really happy to have this opportunity to follow the presentation. Maybe a lot of participants from the audience knows my words from my last conference, in which I told something about this, but now Asha gave us the real data, how we can make it possible for Romania to use gas as transition combustion, and how to mix the hydrogen. That's why I will give the floor to Thomas.
Thank you.
And the question, as I told to all speakers, will come in Q&A. Thomas present us some solutions for flexible cogen plants, decarbonization for the CO2 impact. Thomas, your floor. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I will now try to share my screen. I should use this one, of course, and hopefully it will work. Can you see my screen now?
Not yet.
Try again, Thomas, maybe.
Okay.
Yeah, seems that something is changing.
Now we are there. Thank you very much. Now I will just, this is then my presentation, right?
Now it's okay.
It's okay? You can see everything is good?
Yeah. Put it on screen, on large screen. For the moment, it's presentation mode. It's not presentation mode, sorry.
Yes.
Okay, perfect.
You can follow now, everything?
Yes, perfect.
It's good? Thank you. Bună ziua din Sverige. My name is Thomas Benskuld, and I also, like Asa, work in Finspång, and my line of duty is I participate in early phases of project with analyzing the specific project conditions, financial as well as technical. So, and this presentation I will give is about what is the status of the situation today with to minimize CO2 emissions with different kind of plant concepts, and also look a bit into the future, basically targeting some CO2 emission levels. So now I will continue. Let's go directly in here. So what do we have for situation today? We already talked a lot about minimizing the CO2 emission and reduce the usage of fossil fuels. Yes, obviously there are several means of doing this. You can look on the fuels, and you can look on the efficiency. Already a change from coal to gas will give you approximately 50% reduction in CO2 emissions. But and when you are using gas, the main important criteria is really to have as high total fuel efficiency as possible. Now, what do we see for demands on the market? 250 grams per kilowatt hour. Is there, or is a coming criteria when discussing in various fora with financial bodies, as well as on a European European Union level. European Union are discussing levels at 100 gram per kilowatt hour, which is fairly low. CO2 release is again very critical for revenues through subsidies, and many are looking at this. Now, so what do we see today? This is a present situation and also a little bit looking into the future. What kind of plant concepts can manage the 250 gram per kilowatt hour? Well, if you look at the open cycle or simple cycle, that is gas turbine only, we can not reach these levels at present, and with natural gas. For combined cycle gas turbine plus a steam turbine and the boiler, bottoming cycle, we cannot again reach even with a high efficient large gas turbine types, but there will be a need for blending in with some renewable fuel. For cogeneration, we can more or less always reach the goal with 250 grams per kilowatt hour by having a cogeneration with steam or heat production as well as power production. Now, one final comment to this is this slide here is if we have 35% of energy in form of any kind of renewable energy, that might also be hydrogen, then we can actually go below the 250 gram per kilowatt hour. And 35% of energy is some 65% in terms of volume, which, as I mentioned in the previous slide, this is almost there. We are almost there. Even for condensing plant, we can live up to these criteria. So I will go through a couple of cogeneration concepts here and see where we are today, and finally look at this future demand. So for this specific case, I've been looking at a low pressure steam type of plant. We have a typical European gas. We have means of air preheating and supplementary firing are possible. And why do we need these ones? Well, air preheating and supplementary firing give you a certain operation flexibility for your plant when you want to part load. So that is the reason why it's there. So what does it look like? Well, we have used here an SGT 800 type of gas turbine in a cogeneration with low pressure steam. And as you can see, for any case here that we have calculated, the levels are well below the required present or near future European levels. We are around 220 and a little bit less. Looking at different combined cycle concepts based on the SGT 800, again, we can see that a pure back pressure type plant and a back pressure district heating, we manage very well with these ones. And for the condensing plant and no heat produced by the plant, we are above. But as I mentioned before, by mixing in some 65% volume of hydrogen or any other green fuel, we will be able to manage these levels as well. So again, here we will be looking at, sorry, why can I not continue with next slide? Let's see.
Maybe you have to use full screen mode in presentation. That's the problem.
No, sorry, no, that was I had to just to move a little thing that was on my screen. So this is a combined cycle concept again, and with district heating back pressure. And also with this kind of concepts, we are well below levels that we see are coming here in Europe and in the near future. And also here we have operation flexibility possible, as I talked about before, preheated air, supplementary fire. But in these cases, in case of there is a need for power, particularly during summertime, as you know, during summertime, there is not so much need for district heating water. And in that case, only tap hot water will be needed. And for those cases, we can look at flexibility by using summer coolers or systems with heat accumulators. I have here on a slide summarized for what we call then the open cycle cogen. And an open cycle cogeneration is a plant based on one gas turbine and a boiler. Hot water boiler or steam boiler. In this case, it's a steam boiler, 10 bar steam. And when we have made this summary here for, let's say, all the medium gas turbine and small gas turbines at Siemens, you can see that we are below the near future requirement. So let's say that in summary, we are already today fulfilling what we can see in the near future. I will also take the opportunity to share some numbers from two projects that we have under construction at the moment. This plant in Zagreb is a district heating back pressure plant, and we have a total efficiency of 90% of this one, and we are well below the 250 grams per kilowatt hour required. Loiandecuyo is in South America. It's a steam producing plant, and for the base case of this one, we have a total efficiency of 88% and also CO2 level below the required level of 250 grams per kilowatt hour. I think Asa already covered this pretty much. We are talking about hydrogen. Yes, hydrogen is a very important part of the renewable fuels, but there are also other possibilities like methanol, ethanol, firing with ammonia, biodiesel, and so on and so forth. You can also look further into the GT technology concept with hybrid type plant where you have a heat accumulation, molten salt. You can combine with waste to energy, where your waste to energy plant is, let's say, a lot of renewables, combined with biogas and thermal solar power. So there are a lot of plant possibilities to look at in the path to reducing and coming down in CO2 emissions. Now, finally, I'd like to show this one. And the question is, can we reach the 100 gram per kilowatt hour with an open cycle cogeneration? As I mentioned earlier, here you see on the right, this is a typical open cycle cogeneration, the gas turbine and the boiler. These two parts, nothing else. And well, with the same conditions as we had before, low pressure steam, 10 bar and so on, how can we do that? Well, by using hydrogen or any other renewable fuel, if we have a total efficiency, a fuel efficiency of the plant of the 85%, and then using what is known as heat bonus calculation, then we need about 27% in terms of energy, and this is about 56% in terms of volume. And as Asa mentioned earlier, this is also possible already today, technically. So let's say the technical There is no technical limit to reach the future and some future, the near future and foreseeable future requirements that that has come up and discussed within the European Union with these kind of plants based on gas turbine technology. And so I feel very confident that we can meet the future very well with this technology and the development as we are doing. All right, I think I'll stop there.
Okay, many thanks, Thomas. It's very interesting how many opportunities you describe, and I think for the audience, this is one of the basis for our next ideas and thoughts, also in existing power plants, also for the future ones, in order to get the emission under the limit that will force beginning with next year.
I just want to add as a final comment that, of course, if there are anyone who has an opportunity they want to discuss with us, we are absolutely open to open up that discussion and see what we can do in terms of plant concept, gas turbine technology, fuels, etc., etc. So, yeah.
Thank you very much, Thomas. For sure, we can tell you that there are a lot of questions already flows on the channels that we are followed, and in Q&A we will answer as much as possible, and then we will answer in direct emails to our audience.
All right.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank you.
Mr. Stefan Gheorghe, please.
Thank you. Mulțumesc, Petru. Dați-mi voie să prezint acum vorbitorul care va prezenta ultima prezentare din această conferință, după care vom trece la capitolele următoare. Este vorba de domnul Petre Palade, care este senior researcher la Institutul Național de Fizica Materialelor. Allow me to introduce Mr. Petre Palade, which is senior researcher, third degree, in the National Institute for Material Physics, Măgurele. Mr. Palade, please, you have the right to share on the screen of your presentation, and please.
Thomas, please close your screen share. Otherwise,
Yes, it's okay.
Okay. Okay.
And slideshow, please.
Yes, it's okay. Yes, now
Okay.
You can
But
see.
put on the slideshow.
Okay. I don't know why. Okay.
Yes, it's okay.
Now it's okay. Yes. Okay. So I am Petru Palade from National Institute of Materials Physics from Măgurele, and I will present some of our research on hydrogen storage in our institute in Măgurele. So first, why we need a hydrogen-based economy? So I think that this was very well explained before. So the problem of greenhouse effect and the problem that the fossil fuels will be soon exhausted in some 10 of years, and so the hydrogen cycle allows us to obtain a clean energy carrier. So by electrolysis from water, we obtain hydrogen and oxygen using electricity, and combining hydrogen and oxygen in a fuel cell, we obtain water. So the cycle is closed, and without any pollution products. So the clean hydrogen is obtained by photovoltaic or by hydropower, by wind, and other methods to produce hydrogen, like gasification, reformation, or nuclear, are not completely clean. So they need to other technologies to avoid the byproducts. So the current hydrogen technologies are the hydrogen can be stored in high pressure cylinders. So in order to store enough amount of hydrogen by weight, so this weight percent of hydrogen and volumetric content of hydrogen, so amount of hydrogen per cubic meter of the tank or the cylinder. So we need to go up to 800 bars. So this raises some safety problems and also compression cost, but this is a current choice for on-board storage these days. So also liquid hydrogen cryogenic vessels. So these require low temperature where hydrogen is liquefied, so minus 253 centigrade, and this also gives some safety cryogenic cost and liquefaction costs, and also the some losses of hydrogen. But this is the onboard storage in demo vehicles in these days. High surface area material. So in this case, hydrogen is stored at liquid nitrogen temperature, and there are few tests already. And the problem is the low volumetric density, and that also cryogenic temperatures are required. Low temperature metal hydrides. These are working at ambient temperature. This is a big advantage, and also these hydrides are loaded with hydrogen. The metals are loaded with hydrogen at around 5 or 10 bars, so low pressure, so not such safety issues. And also hydrogen is released at 1-3 bars, what is enough to feed with hydrogen a fuel cell. The only problem here is low gravimetric density, so the low amount of hydrogen by weight. But in the case of stationary energy generation or for naval application, so ships or submarines, this is not a problem. Only for onboard storages on vehicles, this is now a problem, and we have to develop materials with higher amount of hydrogen by weight. The high temperature metal hydrides have a higher amount of hydrogen by weight, but they need about 200 or 300 centigrade to release hydrogen. And in this case, a part of combustion energy is required to release hydrogen. Complex hydride also have high up to 13 weight percent of hydrogen, but also require some heating to release hydrogen. The same problem with the regeneration on board. So practically we devote a lot of our work to improve the hydrogen storage properties of these metal hydrides of complex hydrides. So this is a nice picture, so that we can see the same amount of hydrogen in this tank. So 200 bar is a big tank, and in the left side it's a small tank with the magnesium nickel hydride. So we can see that metal hydrides allow us to obtain a big degree of compaction of the tank where hydrogen is stored. So why to use hydrides in place of high pressure cylinders or liquid hydrogen? Because the volumetric density of stored hydrogen is higher for metal hydrides, 150 kilograms of hydrogen per cubic meter. It's higher than for hydrogen gas, so 33 kilograms per cubic meter for hydrogen stored at high pressure, or liquid nitrogen is 70. So also there are no liquefaction cryogenic costs, no compression costs, no safety issues, and hydrogen is loaded at pressure up to 10 bars and released at pressure of 13 bars. So already the metal hydrides were successfully used for German submarine Kiel class, which use in submersion PEM fuel cell and metal hydride storage tanks, and also in Riyadh, it's from 20 years ago. This is a solar city where during day hydrogen is produced by electrolysis, and it's stored in such hydride tanks, and during night in a fuel cell, the combustion of this hydrogen generate electricity. So here are the main class of metal hydride. So it's AB5, which is a classical lanthanum nickel 5 hydride, AB2, AB, A2B, and the last class of hydrides is body cubic center structure hydrides. This is a reaction how the hydrogen is generated from the metal hydrides, results metal and hydrogen. This is a reversible reaction which take on the plateau from this region. So the pressure of absorption and desorption of hydrogen during the decomposition or formation of hydride is more or less constant, and this plateau pressure is varying with temperature with Van Hoff equation. So this is, we talk about the metal hydrides. Now the high surface area materials, which are efficient cryogenic temperatures, and the complex hydride, which are a mixture of covalent ionic bonding. So they have a large amount of hydrogen in their content, but need some high temperature to release hydrogen. So what we have to do for improve the hydrogen storage properties of the material, so to improve the kinetics, so the amount of hydrogen which is desorbed and absorbed versus time, so to have a fast kinetics. So by adding catalyst or by changing the preparation route, and to improve the thermodynamics. So the plateau pressure it needs to be enough, so more 1 bar in order to feed with hydrogen a fuel cell. So for magnesium hydride, this 1 bar pressure of hydrogen can be achieved with 280 centigrade, and for lithium borohydride at 410 centigrade. By designing special chemical reaction for generation of hydrogen in the mixture of lithium borohydride and magnesium hydride, so we can obtain the 1 bar hydrogen release pressure at 168 centigrade. This was not yet practically obtained because there are kinetic limitations. So we need to use some catalyst and preparation route to improve the kinetics in order to obtain this 1 bar pressure at 168 centigrade. And now we present some of our results. So we work a lot of time on magnesium and tried various catalysts, niobium oxide, and tried various preparation routes, so not only ball milling of the hydrides, but also starting from melt spoon ribbons, and we ball mill them, and after this we hydrogenate them, and we study the kinetics of absorption and of desorption of hydrogen. So here are some pictures. So we can see we've read that we have a very fast kinetics of release of hydrogen for magnesium nickel iron ribbon, which is hydrogenated. So by changing this preparation route, we obtain a good results concerning kinetics. So also by adding catalyst niobium oxide, the kinetics is improved. here we use some techniques to know what happens with the iron in this ribbons after hydrogenation with mass bar spectroscopy to see where is iron located with grain boundary of magnesium nickel hydride. And here are the pressure composition isotherms for magnesium ammonium oxide and for magnesium nickel iron ribbons. So unfortunately, we cannot obtain the modification of the plateau pressure is very close to the pure material. So only we achieve an improvement of the kinetics of in this case of magnesium hydride. So now I go to the next class of materials we studied and developed. So about mixture based on lithium amide. So in this case, we obtain a very important result of thermodynamic destabilization. So the plateau pressure increased twice by combining this mixture of lithium amide, lithium hydride, and silicon. And this was a completely new result in literature. And also we, after many efforts, we develop a material which can have a plateau pressure of almost 5 bar of 160 centigrade. So here it's a very good material, near 90, so below 100 centigrade, which practically it's enough for feeding hydrogen the PEM fuel cell, because the PEM fuel cell gives not only electricity but a little amount of residual heat, which can be used to heat a little bit hydrides up to about 90 centigrade. So this material was the subject of an OSIM national patent delivered in 2017, and we built a small hydrogen storage tank with this material. And the last class of materials I want to present, there are some body cubic center alloys, titanium, chromium, vanadium. So they have also before and after hydrogenation the same BCC structure, and the pressure composition isotherm show for this over stoichiometric alloys, they show reversible capacity of 1.8 weight% of hydrogen. So this is more than 1.3, 1.4 weight% for the classical lanthanum nickel 5. And this pressure, plateau pressure at ambient temperature, it's above 1 bar. So this material can be really used for feeding the PEM fuel cell with hydrogen. So the conclusion, hydrogen storage, in my opinion, is the best option for stationary energy generation and naval application. No liquefaction, no compression costs, security use, low hydrogen pressure to load to regenerate the hydride, and also for hydrogen desorption. So below 1 bar, below 10 bars of hydrogen. Magnesium-based new materials obtained by a complex ball milling mass spinning process have very good kinetics, but unfortunately the working temperature cannot be decreased below 280 centigrade. First time we prove in literature thermodynamics destabilization, so the plateau pressure increase for lithium amide mixture by silicon addition, and we develop a good material with almost 5 bars of 160 centigrade and 4.6 weight% of hydrogen. And we built a small demonstrative hydrogen storage tank, and these materials have to be in future have to be improved, because theoretically 1 bar for it can be achieved at 90 centigrade. So if we overcome some kinetic limitation by some preparation rules or catalyst, this is really a very promising material for feeding with hydrogen the fuel cell. Titanium, chromium, iron, vanadium, BCC alloys are suitable for reversibly store 1.8 hydrogen ambient temperature, and the plateau pressure is above 1 bar. So this is a really viable material to generate hydrogen for PEM fuel cell. So these are our facilities in our institute. So it's an instrument for analyzing the kinetics and thermodynamic properties of hydrides, and planetary mill, glow box, M-Brown, because the hydrides are sensitive to oxygen and humidity, and the melt spinner to obtain metal ribbons. These are our collaborators from institute, from E-Team Cluj-Napoca, the Institute of Molecular Isotope Technology, and also we have a lot of work together with University of Padova from Italy. So thank you very much for your attention, and these are our papers concerning hydrogen storage.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Palade. Mulțumim, domnul Palade, pentru prezentare. Foarte interesantă și actuală, pentru că dacă vrem să facem stocarea hidrogenului, trebuie să știm și ce condiții trebuie să îndeplinească materialele care contribuie la stocarea hidrogenului.
So may I stop share screen or somebody?
Stop. Please stop. It's okay.
Okay,
deci mulțumim, domnul Palade, și dacă e foarte actuală problema prezentată și dacă vrem să facem stocarea hidrogenului în tehnologiile actuale, trebuie să știm și ce condiții trebuie să îndeplinească aceste materiale în care vrem să stocăm hidrogenul. Cu aceasta am epuizat partea de prezentări din agenda noastră și le mulțumim pe această cale tuturor celor care au făcut prezentări. We just finished all the presentations chapter of our conference, and thank you again for all the speakers in our conference. And now we propose a break 5 minutes, not more, in which we will centralize the question. We try to summarize the conclusions, and after 5 minutes we will continue with the question and answers and conclusions.
Just a moment, Mr.
Yes.
Ștefan, can I? Borbei Laszlo.
Yes, Mr. Borbei.
Just for a minute, because I have to leave to another meeting. Yes. I have to tell you that I was here for all the presentations, and they were very interesting, very, impressive, and for me it was very exciting to find a lot of new issues about hydrogen. I ask from the organizers and congratulate all the organizers for this wonderful meeting. But basically, just I wanted to say not to remain to a very good, webinar and without a follow-up. And based on also my humble experience on different other meetings regarding hydrogen, maybe I ask you to send me all the presentations. I hope that it will be available.
I will do it.
Okay, thank you very much. So we need first technical solutions. It's very important. And to discuss also on some level of the government or with our friends from research and other, because it was for me amazing how small details are, which are very important regarding, business or investment or partnership or something like this. We need commercial solutions. We have the potential. Romania has the potential. That's why Siemens and others are interested, I hope, to have more investments on this. We have to look about legally background, about, of course, political willingness, partnerships, action plan, because we have an action plan regarding circular economy and our targets for 2030 and 2050 on the level of European Union. And of course, we will have also on the level of department an action plan based on a European Union project until, I hope, the middle of next year, based also on our strategic proposals for until 2030, and is not an accident. Yes, the government proposed the reconstruction plan until 2030, so it's just Agenda 2030, but we have to look how, and the possibilities, of course, on the level of European Union, because of without the support from the European Union and without also some state discussions and understanding memorandums will be difficult because of the costs. So thank you very much, because I have to leave another meeting. We will be in touch, and for sure with my colleagues from the Ministry of Economy, we will be in touch to make some follow-up and to discuss again more details, because it's important for us. So thank you very much, and excuse me, but I have to leave the meeting.
I have to promise from Siemens team that we will make the follow-up, Mr. Borbeli, and please be sure that we will come with solution. And we will have this follow-up as soon as possible.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Borbeli. Thank you for your...
Okay, Mr. Ștefan.
Poftiți, domnul ministru Havrileț, poftiți.
Please let me present some impression. Your conference was very impressive, very consistent presentation of the technologies for hydrogen issue. It is important for us that the stakeholders and the investors field is really prepared to apply this technology in the next period. So I congratulate you to organizing this very important meeting and issue in the next political strategy in energy. But also I have to participate in another meeting, also having participation of Siemens company in a very important investment in Romania in transformation fuels in to the energy, to the electricity. I mean, there is a very important contract for new investment in the Black Sea side, in, between Rompetrol and a company using technology in electricity based on natural gas. So I have to leave you, and I have to thank you for your invitation to participate in this very important conference. Bye-bye.
Many thanks. Many thanks.
Thank you for your participation, Mr. Havrileț, and we are waiting for you and in other conference. Next will be Foren 2020, which is valid for and available for everybody from this conference. Now, allow me please to say break 5 minutes, please. Thank you. Revenim din nou, bună ziua din nou, revenim în cadrul conferinței noastre și v-aș ruga să începem cu un anunț. Următorul nostru eveniment reprezintă Foren 2020, versiunea online, care se va produce în perioada 7 la 10 septembrie. Vă invităm să participați și la acel eveniment. Chiar dacă n-am reușit să-l facem fizic, cu întâlnire fizică și îl facem online, noi credem că va fi un eveniment reușit și suntem siguri de asta. Vă așteptăm la acest eveniment pentru a putea să dezbatem și să continuăm dezbaterile, iar în cadrul subiectelor preferențiale de discutat la Foren, hidrogenul evident că nu putea să lipsească. Deci continuăm pentru următorul eveniment Foren 2020, 7 la 10 septembrie. Acum, am parcurs din agenda noastră punctele cele mai importante în care am făcut prezentările, am cules de la dumneavoastră comentariile și sub acest aspect dați-mi voie să trecem la acest capitol de întrebări și răspunsuri, la care o să rog pe domnul Petru Rușeț să încerce răspunsuri la întrebările la care colegii dânsului, echipa Siemens Energy, poate răspunde acum, iar așa cum am anunțat și la început, dacă nu vom putea răspunde din diverse motive, nu avem disponibil interlocutorul sau vorbitorul care a făcut aceste prezentări sau din diverse alte motive, vă promitem că vom răspunde punctual persoanei care a pus întrebarea prin e-mail. Deci, domnul Rușeț, vă rog, aveți cuvântul.
Okay, first of all, I would translate a little bit for the colleagues, English speakers. We will have the next event in which hydrogen will be present, will be foreign, also under an umbrella of World Energy Council. This is between 7 and 10th of September, and will be also done online. It's the first time that we are making this event online, and you are highly invited as well. Siemens Energy will have a round table already reserved, and yeah, we will treat also hydrogen. Then I will start with a question, and the first ones, and many thanks to Andrea Vatra from Renovatio. There are a lot of very precise questions given to the audience, which will be answered for sure in details over the emails. But what I want to stress and to answer, I think 2 or 3 from this question, yes, the solution is standardized, is a modular solution, as the colleagues present, from Siemens 100 to 300, and the development continues. Yes, this solution is suitable for balancing the power in the system, and about the delivery time, the prices, and the technology and presentation of the details of the technology will come in written over the email. And many thanks, Andrea, for this question. Then we have another question from Mrs. Simina Suciu, and I will answer having in mind our discussion with the team. And yes, this problem is is discussed with EU, and the plans of EU and Romania regarding hydrogen are also followed by the Siemens team. We have a very focused team in Brussels, which is working hard in order to promote and to give all the necessary information about the technology. The perspective are, my opinion, are related about the first pilot and the willingness. But the good news is what we heard from Mr. Havriles and from Mr. Borbeli. Team Siemens Energy will make this follow-up possible as soon as possible, and yeah, for us is not a problem to fix and to deliver the first pilot for Romania. Nevertheless, the first step in this regard will be done with the project mentioned by Mr. Havriles. These turbines will be installed in the next year and a half, and they have the possibility already to use hydrogen in a proportion of 40%, but we are pushing hard to increase the value for the hydrogen. Then I see a question from Mr. Wild, and thank you very much for the question. We seems that Siemens is promoting and is very innovative and is coming on the market with the information very early in time, and for sure the relation between electric mobility and hydrogen is very connected. What we see is that in the future this usage of hydrogen could solve part of the problem for the e-mobility due to the flexibility and also due to the possibility to produce hydrogen more appropriate to the location of consumption, not having the troubles with transmission and distribution anymore. The studies about usage the hydrogen, I propose to Mr. Wild to answer directly over email with the help of my colleagues, which are more close to this topic. Then I think it's a question for Thomas. Thomas, the question is from Mr. Mihai Săndurac. He's a professor in Polytechnic Institute in Bucharest. Which is the efficiency of the presented gas turbine using natural gas compared with blended gas plus hydrogen up to 60%? What efficiency is expected for 100% usage of hydrogen? Thomas, do you hear me, or Asha? I don't know.
I can take this question.
Please.
It's a good question, and looking at the fuel content, it will be the same amount of heat content in the fuel. Depends on any mix of fuel, it will still have the same heat content. So the efficiency of the gas turbine will be same for both natural gas, and if you mix in hydrogen up to 60%, and that's also the goal for us when we go to 100% hydrogen, the efficiency of the gas turbine should remain the same.
Thank you, Asha, but with a very big advantage, not having the same CO2 emission. Same efficiency, but with less emissions. Yes. Okay, thank you, Asha.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next question is coming from Mr. Lavinu Danciu from Complex Energetic Oltenia. And the question, I think, is more in the direction of Alexander Peschel, which is the biggest, which is the biggest plant in this moment, using hydrogen plus gas, which is developed by Siemens. And if we could give some technical data, how much hydrogen is used and which are the efficiency on the different load levels.
Well, the question is, if you are asking what is the largest installation currently, so this is in operation. So this is still the shown project H2 Future at the steelwork in Austria, in Linz, with the 6 megawatts of one electrolyzer. This is the largest one of PEM electrolysis in operation we have installed, and according to my knowledge, there is no other larger PEM electrolysis currently from anybody else in operation. If you're asking what are the largest projects we are working on and preparing, then I rather would refer to the German projects, the so-called Reallabore. So there are several projects we are preparing in the size of 50 to 100 megawatts based on the same technology. As I mentioned, this technology, which is available now, can be used up to several hundred megawatts, and that makes sense. If you are asking about where we have, because I have understood a little bit also the question mixing hydrogen with gas. So then this would be the question of, do you mean the mixing or hydrogen with gas for burning in the turbines? So this was already answered during the presentation. The mixing hydrogen into the gas grids. So there we did it within the project at Energiepark Mainz, but this was only a pilot. This is not on an operational status. The reason is very easy because, as I mentioned as well, so the countries still have regulations in place where it's not allowed to raise the hydrogen level in the gas grid up to a certain amount or over a certain amount. This level differs from country to country. In Austria, it's 4%. In some other countries, it's 6%, 10%. But everybody is working on raising that level, and so this takes some time, but this is a regulatory issue just right now.
Thank you, Alexander. Maybe one remark from my side. For sure, the commercial operation for the project are in this pilot phase, or as Alexander mentioned, in different phases. What is important, I think, is very important for Complex Energetic Oltenia. The new projects could benefit on what was presented today by Thomas and Asha, and we can start to build new power plants with this, taking in consideration this usage of a percentage of hydrogen, which will limit dramatically the emission and will give the possibility of such kind of gas-fired power plants to be financed by EU, being under the limit in the future. And I think this is the biggest benefit. The new project that should come in Romania, and I know that Complex Energetic Oltenia is making now a feasibility study for this. We are really open to come to CEO in order to give all the necessary details, all the technical data, in order to prepare as good as possible this studies.
what's necessary, Petro, especially necessary is because I think that what had been part of the question is a more detailed calculation about operational mode, needed hydrogen and things like that. Then this goes, as I mentioned as well, in hand with how much hydrogen storage is needed and so on and so on. So this is a clear, detailed calculation which has been done case by case together with the customer depending on the various parameters.
Okay. Now I have one of the last important question. I haven't listed all of them, but I think it's also to go in direction Alexander Peschel, knowing his duties in Siemens, and this is blue hydrogen, Alexander, and what kind of big projects are we maybe following, developing? If you can tell us about the project that I know. I don't know if this is
concerning blue hydrogen or
blue hydrogen.
Yeah, this is something we are in discussion with various companies. To be honest, here I cannot disclose currently the status of these discussions. This is a little bit more tricky, as I mentioned as well. So sorry for that, but there are some discussions ongoing, but we are not allowed to disclose it just right now.
Maybe only a hope for Romania. Is Romania involved in this discussion or not?
We should enter the discussions as well in Romania, of course.
Perfect. Okay, from my side, I'm over with the questions, and the rest of them, for the ones who put this question, we will answer over the email. Maybe after the finishing this conference, you will have another question. My email is very easy: petru.ruset@siemens.com. Please give me all your questions, and we will try to answer all of them over the email. Mr. Stefan George, please.
Thank you. I ask Asha to exit and enter again because as a screen, please. First of all, yes, it's okay. And stop the share screen of the presentation of Asha. Stop the share screen, please, Asha. Just a moment, please.
Yes, I'll try to do that.
Please.
It's my computer is locked right now.
Oh, why?
Sorry.
Maybe you can leave and enter again.
Yes, now it's okay. It's okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Sorry.
I want to share the conclusions. Do you see the conclusions?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Allow me, please, to... Okay. We have a special cartoon with the conclusions. My colleague will share on the screen now. Just a moment, please. Okay. As a conclusions, in our opinion, first conclusion of our conference is very clear: zero. Commercial solutions are available now. we think that it's time to discuss continuous about R&D, research and development, but now we discuss about the projects being in the implementation stage, using the commercial solution which are available. Of course, we could see today Siemens solution which can apply. It's important. We try to promote and to have in discussion and in our next events. And of course, we hope in our next event in Foren, the discussion will be developed and more information will be put as a disposal, will be available and will be taken into account. Now we try to present in the front of you 9 conclusions, not the biggest, not limitative. This could be added with and put other conclusions from the last discussions. And of course, we hope to arrive to a good final decision in dissemination of information. The first one, hydrogen will play an important role in decarbonization, as we know, in energy industry, but other branches of industry will use the hydrogen technology. Of course, it's nothing new because it was discussed, but many of the presentation remarks this conclusion, and we consider that is needed to be put in the front of the conclusions. Romania aims to become an energy hub, not only for natural gas, as Romanian authorities remark here and present here, but also and for hydrogen. We hope to have as fast as possible realistic plan for implementation and for arriving to this important target. Romania become energy hub in hydrogen. Offshore wind developed provide opportunity for green hydrogen development as a solution for storage in part of area and until the infrastructure will be developed in order to allow possibility to use the hydrogen not only near the renewable, but also and in other part, and use the technology of hydrogen in other industry, in other branches of industry, other field of industry. Romania wants to develop a demonstration project in the field of hydrogen use, as Mr. Havrilets presented here, and we hope this project to become a reality as fast as possible, and using external financing from EU fund, we hope, and of course the implication of government is very clear and very important. We could see last time a strong growth of the hydrogen application market. In this time, we can consider that hydrogen market application was developed, and of course, hydrogen solutions applications appear in the world. First of all, we discuss here in more details about Siemens solution. Reduced energy costs for renewable source, it's an opportunity to develop hydrogen production, in fact, as integration between these two important technologies related to renewable and related to the hydrogen production. The use of hydrogen in gas turbine, it's an important solution for the future. Of course, we could remember that one solution increasing the balance between natural gas and hydrogen in gas turbine was developed, arriving to 60% hydrogen, which is important range, it's important balance, and of course, in future, this ratio will be developed until 100%. Of course, I can remark here the characteristics of different materials in this hydrogen technology application is very important. The use of hydrogen in gas turbine is important solution, as I mentioned before, not only for using of hydrogen, but also for reduction of CO2 emission, as we know. Hydrogen cogeneration can be provided, arriving less than 250 grams of emission per kilowatt hour. It's a target and could be an important scope of future application using hydrogen. There are some viable projects, realistic and very important projects in implementation stage, and as we could see in this conference, and use of green hydrogen in energy industry now is very clear, it's a good reality. I'm sure here we could put 10, 11 and 12 conclusions, and we will see. And now I want to invite Mr. Rușeț to add some supplementary conclusions here until we will prepare for the finalize this meeting. Please, Mr. Rușeț.
Okay, first of all, I want to make a very clear confirmation. All the presentation that you have seen today will be sent to you, forwarded to you by Mr. Ștefan, which is our host today. Then first, I want to give the floor to my colleague Nakul Prasad, which will make a very briefly conclusion from Siemens Energy point of view, and I will say some words afterwards. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Please.
Thank you. Can you hear me?
Please.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Thanks a lot. So, first of all, I was very impressed by this conference. So, I think, yeah, kind of congratulations to the organizers. I think this was a very, very valuable event and very good exchange from both ends. I think we learned a lot as well. Particularly me, since I'm not from Europe, I'm based in the US. It's kind of, I've been monitoring what's happening in Germany, but I'm very impressed on the ambitions as well, what Romania is sort of moving forward. I agree wholeheartedly with the concluding points that were mentioned here. Definitely, as you believe it, we also believe hydrogen is going to play an extremely important role. I think I saw the bullet point here that Romania wants to be both a natural gas hub as well as a hydrogen hub. And I think that offers opportunities for hydrogen as well in general. So we saw that blue hydrogen is a very good potential. So if you really want to be a hub in natural gas, you can be a big player as well in the hydrogen business if you're diversifying your production portfolio. So also agree with the offshore renewables. I think that is very important. So really to summarize, I think that was very, very sort of enlightening from our point of view. And I think we can just say, as Siemens, you've seen that we have the expertise across the entire value chain. We have the sort of broader knowledge and really beyond just providing technical solution. I think it's across the consultation space as well, where we definitely would like to be partners really and help you with our expertise to bring forward that hydrogen vision you have, and yeah, just really move it forward to the next step, which is so crucial. I think the next step is always very, very crucial. When we can talk a lot about it, but if we don't act, then it just becomes talk. So yeah, thanks a lot for the discussion. And maybe Alexander, Asa, if you want to share your thoughts as well. I mean, that was just my perspective. Please, Alexander, maybe I'll head over to you for some remarks as well.
Yeah, thank you, Nakur. So my impression, I know already a little bit about the Romanian market also from the past, and I'm currently involved in at least 2 or 3 discussions about concrete projects concerning hydrogen, and I would be pleased if we could really make one of these true, or several ones. Maybe one comment from my side. Yes, it's necessary to discuss about the technical details. It's more necessary to discuss about the use cases, as I mentioned, and what was mentioned as well at the beginning in the forward. What is as well necessary is to discuss about the regulatory framework, because please don't forget, realizing and implementing technology is one part of the show, but also the framework needs to be available in order to be allowed to do so and to realize such pilot projects, and then switching over to regular operation. And this is sometimes what I have seen a little bit tricky. So please make sure that also the framework, the regulatory framework in Romania will be developed in parallel, in time. We could set up a project quite soon, but it can't be operational if the framework does not fit. So only this remark, which is my learning out of several other projects. And also here we would be pleased to support you. Thank you.
Asha? Yeah, if you have some thoughts, Asha, please.
Yes, thank you. I think I agree. It's the webinar. It's really good, a success, I would say, and I look forward to the progress. And making this webinar now during this Corona time, I think it's really impressive. And I hope we can move ahead together now, even if it's a very challenging time and we can't traveling as normal. I see a great potential for hydrogen to become something in Europe. And I think now with the new Green Deal in Europe, I think this is really the time. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Asha. My last words about this conference. Many thanks to the hosts, World Energy Council. Many thanks to the team of Mr. Stefan Gheorghe. Not the less, many thanks to the participants, speakers, and the auditorium. From Siemens Energy Romania perspective, and the team is myself and Marian regarding the topic of hydrogen. Many thanks, personal thanks. And I want to say a very important word for Siemens Energy. We are trying to have a very important value, which means we energize the society, which is our main driver for the future. And in this regard, Siemens use you to be present with all innovation and all state-of-the-art technologies in Romania. I want to assure you that we will continue this, and hydrogen is the next one. Keeping in mind that Siemens is the only one who have succeeded the first megawatt storage in Romania. I am sure that we will be also the first one using hydrogen on large scale in generation in Romania. With this, thank you very much for all, and keeping in touch. We will try to answer all your questions and to give the information. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Siemens Energy teams. Thank you, all of speakers. thank you all the people from audience and of course the authorities present here, and of course our team here from World Energy Council Romanian Committee, and we ensure you that in future we can be near you for next event, for preparation and for solving different technical issues in order to promote Siemens Energy. Vă mulțumim tuturor și vă asigurăm că vor fi disponibile lucrările așa cum am stabilit cu domnul director general Petru Rușeț. În câteva zile vor fi disponibile și le vom transmite. De asemenea, înregistrarea evenimentului va fi disponibilă pe YouTube și pe Facebook, așa cum ați văzut-o, sau în niște condiții mai bune. Încercăm să o aducem la niște condiții mai bune de vizualizare și vă așteptăm la evenimentele noastre următoare. Vă mulțumim și să aveți o zi bună în continuare. La revedere!